What's happening, Wargamers? Welcome to another Aegis Brand Studios character analysis, review, hot take, whatever you want to call it. Let's call it the hot potato. Today we are going to talk about the brand new reveal from Panel to Play as of December 13th, I think it is, which is going to be Richard Rider and Nova. So we've known that this character has been coming since Adepticon, when they announced Tim and Yondu are coming in a box together. A lot of people have been wondering when Nova is going to be hitting the game just in general, because a lot of people felt he was kind of like integral to the Guardians, or at least the cosmic aspect of the Marvel Universe. Well, we finally have the most prolific space cop out there, and that is Nova. So these are just going to be some initial hot takes on it. To take them as you will, whether or not, this is how everything shakes out. Who knows? And remember, guys, if you like this content, get that algorithm going. Comment, subscribe, like, all that sort of great stuff. Or if you want to support the channel, patreon.com/AegisBrandStudios. A couple bucks a month keeps the lights on, keeps content current, allows me to keep bringing this stuff to you guys if you enjoy it, and I appreciate it very much. Or you can go to iwargame.net, use code AegisBrand, save 10% on one of their wonderful pre-marked battle mats. But anyway, let's take a quick look at Nova here. And I'm still new to this, so I'm going to be glancing back and forth at the screen here. But right off the hop, we got Nova. He's a 5-threat character. He's 4s across the board, which is becoming kind of standard for 5 threats. We've seen that quite a bit here. He's got 7 stamina on his healthy side. I do believe, no, he stays at 7, so he's got 14 stamina total. So he does have a lot of health to chew through. He is size 2, and he's moving long, so he is quite fast. Now, as we see in his card, while he does have some action compression, it's not quite the same action compression as we see in some other characters who might have charges or stuff like that. So definitely something to keep in mind. But still, that long movement is always really nice. It means he's going to be able to get around to the wherever he needs to be on the table pretty quickly. Does Guardians need another chase character? I don't know. They kind of allude to him also being sort of affiliated with Web Warriors. At least some of the messaging in it kind of makes it sound that way. Does Web Warriors need another long move? Nah, probably not. But here we are. That's kind of where we're at. So, and this kid is actually really kind of interesting. So he's got his first basic attack. It's an energy Nova Burst, range 2, 5 dice, 0 power. It's a gainer. It's a gainer. So he's only ever gaining 1 power for it. So, you're going to notice a trend with it. His power generation the curve is a bit interesting on this one, and you'll see why as we go through. So he's only ever gaining 1 power, and at range 2, you're really going to have to utilize that long range movement in order to get him where he needs to be to really utilize that best. However, it's got a wild throw, and it's a wild size 4 throw, which is really nice. It is a May, so you don't have to throw if you don't want to. Sometimes you're in a situation where maybe you want to keep the enemy character where they are and not necessarily displace them, because maybe you have a grander plan in mind. So it's nice that it's optional. It's nice that it's size 4. It means everything but Sentinels and Dormammu are getting thrown, unless I'm missing another 5, but I don't think I am. So yeah, really nice, and having that on his builder. Now the downside is on 5 dice, a wild, it's not the best odds of getting it. I know the math has been done. I know you can go to Jarvis Protocol and find all the numbers right there. But it's not, don't rely on it. It's basically what it comes down to. Don't rely on the wild. It's not going to happen all the time. But still, I like this as a basic attack. I like that sort of displacement. Next up, we have another energy attack. It's Gravimetric Cannon. It's a range 4, 6 dice for 0 power. Once again, this is a gainer, so you're only ever gaining 1 power for it. So once again, there's that curve we're talking about here. But it does have some cool effects to it. So first off, it does have a push. If damage is dealt, you do get to push the target away short. There is no size restriction on this, at least not what I'm seeing right here. Yep, as long as damage is dealt, you get to push the target short. So those Hulks of the world, the Sentinels of the world, you're pushing them away, and that's, again, excellent. So 2 attacks, 2 great ways of displacing characters, and the fact that he can displace characters at range 4 on a 6-die attack by doing damage, very nice. That's almost as wild as, that's actually better than Tony's push, because you still need to get that wild to push them away. This is almost as good as Shuri's original push, which is quite nice. So yeah, that's really cool. But then it also has another trigger on a wild and is it a shield? Yeah, wild and a shield. We're seeing the return of the judgment condition. And this is a condition it's only on a handful of characters. Not a lot of characters throw judgment out there. I think maybe 3 I think Ronan, I want to say Wanda, and maybe a Ghost Rider. I don't remember. Maybe just two. But yeah, Judgment is one of those one of those conditions we don't see a whole lot. Basically, the whole idea is that when you're judged, you're not going to be gaining. I believe it's you don't gain power from attacks you deal or something like that, or from damage being done to you. I believe is what it is. Either way, it's power mitigation on your targets, and it's an excellent condition to place on characters, especially characters who need to generate a lot of power and do so via being attacked or attacking and everything like that. So really cool to see Judgment come out here. It's on a shield. I'm never a big fan of shield triggers, but here we are. It is a nice little extra benefit for you if you happen to roll that shield and not do some damage. Maybe you're getting the Judgment through. So really, really cool range 4 attack. So I like that. Next up, we have his Spender. It's another energy attack. Lightspeed Lance. It's a beam 5/7 dice for 5 power, and this one gets kind of wild. So basically, first thing that's going to happen is the last character you target with this beam, you are then going to be able to place within range 1 of that target. So make sure you choose how you're resolving those attacks very carefully, because you want to try and get that optimal placement out of it, much like Logan the Wolverine's Tornado Claw. Yeah, Tornado Claw. It's a great way of moving him around. So very cool. On top of that, he's got a wild push. After each attack is resolved, the character pushes the target away short. So not only does Nova get to place at the end of this beam attack off the last character he targets, but he is also potentially displacing a number of targets on top of that. So he's really able to clear a line through the enemy team here, which is really kind of cool. What I think is also fascinating is that none of these attacks are like the massive damage dealing attacks, but these all have some major displacement aspects to them, which is, again, frankly, really cool. Every part of his kit so far that we've looked at has a way to move somebody around, displace them, put them out of position, and I think that alone makes Nova a really fascinating character for what we're going to see on the table. So we're moving into his superpowers. And we're going to start off with an active ability, Faster Than Light. It is 2 power. It's an action. Basically, what he's going to do is he's going to perform an attack, and then after that attack is resolved, he's going to place within range 2 of himself. I don't know if there's any other real analogs for this superpower. I can't think of any that kind of work this way. Like, it's not quite a hit and run. It's not quite a charge. Like, it's really interesting. But that range 2 place on the base, that's about 4 inches of movement right there. Again, really, really interesting. So he has some cool tools to move himself around, just in his kit as a whole. So he's not always reliant on doing that move action, because sometimes maybe you just need an extra couple inches of movement. You don't need that move action. So doing a Faster Than Light is a good way of trying to get that in there. Next up, we have a reactive Xandarian World Mind for X power. It's your basic allied reroll thing. So you can spend X power during the modified dice step up to 3 power, and you can reroll up to reroll 1 defense or dodge die equal to the number of power spent once per turn. So it doesn't allow him to do it offensively, but being able to roll some defensive dice, especially dodge dice, is actually really kind of cool. The big problem here is that him generating power is always going to be a little tricky, and it's going to make it difficult for you to figure out, is this what you want to do? Do you want to do Faster Than Light? Do you want to do his Spender? And that's going to be a decision that you have to kind of make in the moment and figure out where everything is going with that. But these sort of abilities are really good. It's really great on Invincible Iron Man, really great on Shuri, Xavier, Sentinel Prime, anyone who kind of gives that range 3 allied reroll bubble. Now, of course, just defensive dice, but still, sometimes the defensive dice is where you really want that reroll. So really kind of nice there. Next up, we have Nova Force. Now, this is actually kind of like the crux of his whole ability here. After this character makes a move action during its activation, so very important to note, it is a move action and it's during its activation. So it's not a movement, so things like pushes, places, all that sort of stuff, not going to trigger this. He needs to specifically make a move action. After the effect is resolved, he's going to gain 2 power. So that's where a lot of his power generation is going to come from, right off the hop. And then on top of that, he's going to remove all special conditions from himself, which Hey, getting rid of that incinerate, that stun, shock, whatever you want to call it, it's just gone. It's fantastic. It basically means that Nova's going to be very hard to pin conditions down on top of. Now, it's also important to note that unless you have some really weird, funky mechanisms going on there, you still can't get rid of Stagger, because the shaking Stagger has to be your first action. If you're staggered, that's your first. You can't move to get rid of it, because you can't do a move action before you shake the Stagger. So just keep that in mind. And then, in addition to that, you're going to be adding 3 dice to your next attack as part of either Nova Burst or Light Speed Lance. So not the Gravimetric Cannon, unfortunately. So the range 4 attack, you're not adding those extra dice to. But the Nova Burst, making it an 8-die attack with a potential throw, really cool, or making it a 10-die beam. Like a 10-die beam 5 is, that's Black Bolt level of shenanigans with that one right there. So really cool with that one. Now, it only triggers once per turn, so you can't move twice, generate 4 power, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, oh, and another important note is that the dice are during this activation, so you can't stack them for later activations. I mean, I don't think there's very many abilities that allow us to do that, but it's always important to note that there is that time limit on there. Lastly, then, he's got flight and immunity to incinerate. So the immunity incinerate's really nice. It's gonna make him really good on missions like Demons Downtown, where he can just kind of ignore that incinerate. And it also means that those 4 defenses are going to go a little bit further. It's not the best defensive tech, but it is still really nice defensive tech. So honestly, the whole kit is just really kind of cool. So before we get into his tactics cards, I mean, obviously, we know he's going to be Guardians. They've alluded to Web Warriors. Are there other places he fits into? Well, I mean, it's very easy to say put him into an affiliation that likes generating power, because quite frankly, he doesn't have an expensive kit, but he's got a kit where you're going to feel it when you don't have that power to spend. If you can't do the rerolls, you can't do a spender, you're going to feel that one. So, you can obviously put him into things like, if you put him into Avengers 1, like, he gets a discount on Faster Than Light. That might be worthwhile, because basically your attack then refunds it, the 1 power. Is it great? Probably not. Cabal 1 is kind of a cool one, where every time you deal damage, you're going to get that extra power. So, there are ones out there. I've seen A-Force talked about, but then you're putting a 5-threat character with a 6-threat leader, and that's on top of an already kind of stacked roster of heavy threats like Cosmic Carol and all that sort of stuff. So I don't really know if he really cares about that particular affiliation. I think the same is kind of true of Inhumans. Like, you have your 5-threat Black Bolt. Depending on what... Can't remember the new leader's name coming out there, Black Bolt's brother. But depending on what his leadership looks like, maybe he fits into Inhumans there, but that's also depending on if that's a power generation one. But under Black Bolt, I think having 2 5s right off the hop before you even really get affiliated is a big ask. So I think where he probably likes to be a little bit more is in affiliations where he can kind of make his dice count a little bit better. So being able to transform results on Wilds, get another strikes type deal, or rerolls. Like, he loves being in the Guardians affiliation. Getting some winging it tokens on him, I think, is actually going to go a long way. If you have to start spending for the rerolls, like in Wakanda, might not be as good. So just kind of native rerolls. I actually kind of dig the idea of him in Daredevil Defenders with that long move. You can get right up there, really sort of decide where the fight's going to happen and trying to get as many of those rerolls as possible, especially if your play action is to move and then punch. So, throwing 8 dice with, 2, 3 rerolls, depending on how many characters are around. I think that's definitely something worth looking at. So I do like him in the Defenders there for that particular reason. Outside of that, I mean, I don't see a lot of other affiliations that really think he's interesting. I suppose you get cute, maybe put him into Midnight Suns, give him that bump, but again, spending power. And I think Nova kind of wants to hoard as much power as he can. So yeah. Now he's got 2 tactics cards. The first one is Veterans of the Annihilation Wards, unaffiliated. It's a reactive card. During the power phase, an allied Gamora and Richard Rider can play this card. It's going to give each of them a superpower. Gamora is going to get when the character is defending against an attack or making a dodge roll, it can reroll up to 2 of its dice, defense or dodge dice. Kind of cool for Gamora, especially when you can spend some power and roll 5 dice with her, martial artist? Really kind of cool in that regard. So just giving you some rerolls on defense. I love it. And then Nova will gain, when this character makes an attack, if there are 1 or more or wild results, you can change one result into a strike. So a little bit of dice consistency there. Now, what I'm not sure about this particular one is that if you need both Gamora and Nova to play the card, or if you can just play one of them. I'm not sure. The wording makes me think that both Gamora and Richard Rider have to be in the squad to play the card, so they have to team up. That's where I'm going to go with that one. I'm sure it's a question that's probably going to come up, and it's probably going to be something that has to be addressed and answered, but that's kind of where I'm at. I think it's a cool card. I don't think it's a great card. Team-up cards are usually kind of hit and miss, very situational, depending on what everything calls for. Next up, we got Call for Backup. It's unaffiliated, it's active. During the activation, Nova can spend 3 power to play this card. It's got 2 effects. You got Move Along Citizen, choose a secure objective within 2 of this character, push each enemy character contesting that objective short. That makes Nova a really solid way of just making sure you hold a secure point. I think it's going to be really cool if you have your Mirefist witnesses bunched up really close, or say, the researcher or something like that, or you have just a bunch of guys on a single point. This is kind of a really cool one because it basically just says, I don't care what size you are, go away short. It makes them a great end of round activation to kind of clean up a point that you absolutely want to take. So I like it. I think it's cool. Is it worth 3? Situational. If you're just pushing one guy, it might not be worth it unless it's like a game-winning point or something like that. But if you're getting 2 or 3 characters, I think that 3 power is kind of a steal for it. Lastly, we got Stop in the Name of the Law. Each enemy character that's holding an extract objective token gains the slow special condition. For 3 power, slowing half an enemy team, if not the whole enemy team, that can be huge. That shuts down web warriors in a pinch. It shuts down a lot of teams that want to just kind of run away, who are moving faster than slow, which I really kind of like. And it gives your team an ability to really chase after them. And with Nova moving long, it means he's catching them as well. It also means that his faster than light has a better chance of being what you need to kind of catch them to get those bigger attacks in there. So I think Call for Backup is a really fantastic card. I think that there's a strong argument for it being within your 5 if Nova's in your team. I think if Nova's in your roster, this card at least makes the 10. I think it's a really fascinating card just because it has that global effect of slowing down everyone on the enemy team who is holding an extract objective. And to note, it's not an asset or civilian, it's just extract objective. Now, one thing to keep in mind, though, it will not work on Researcher, because while Researcher is an extract, you are never holding it. You can only contest it. You don't actually pick up the Researcher. So something very important to keep in mind on that one. But anyway, yeah, that is Nova. I think there's a lot of really interesting aspects to this card. I think he's going to be a very interesting 5 threat to get on the table, see what he brings to the game as a whole. I love his displacement strategy. He might actually be a better displacement character than OG Hulk is at this point, and OG Hulk is just really good at displacing characters. Nova might be a little bit better, simply because he does have so many ways of doing it. The only thing he's really lacking is a superpower throw, which, I mean, is something that OG Hulk has, but every single one of Nova's attacks is potentially displacing characters, and in some cases also moving him around. So I really like it. I think he's going to be really interesting for crowd control type deals, and you can see him in a lot of places where that is something the team wants. So there we go. There's the hot potato takes on Nova's panel to play from Atomic Mass Games for Marvel Crisis Protocol. Sound off below. Let me know what you think about Nova, where you see him being in this game, what you think he's going to be adding to it, whether you like him or not, all that sort of stuff. Let's just get a conversation going. And remember, guys, if you like this content, join the Patreon. A couple bucks a month. You get access to the Patreon Discord where we can have further discussions over there, and just generally have a good time. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. We'll see you next time. Happy wargaming.